a very explosive story that I knew about but didn't really know the depths of it. And it was the story of aspartame. You know, sweetener, that horrible stuff that's in everything. It's in, of course, it's in the little packets. It's in diet soda. It's in chewing gum. It's in toothpaste. It's in everything. It's in many things. And I knew it was very bad stuff. I had heard things like, oh, it used to be insecticide, ant killer. But this memo was held back for 30 years. It was this absolutely explosive memo that was acquired. I don't know if it was freedom of information or what, but it was written in the 1970s. It was an FDA memo. And it revealed extremely damning information about aspartame and birth defects. And Dr. Monte was the truly relentless whistleblower behind getting this memo. And it's not just, I mean, you would expect aspartame to be not good for you. You would expect it to be mutagenic and even cause birth defects. What's astonishing about what Dr. Monte found is that it goes deeper than that. They knew it and they released it into the food supply anyway, which they did in 1981. It goes deeper because, in fact, and this I've never known, never in all my years talking and writing about science, turns out humans are on order of 100 times more susceptible to the toxic effects of this particular chemical than animals are, than monkeys, rabbits. I don't even like to talk about it, the testing they do. So it's this massive story that we're just now beginning to pull up from the depths of the ocean bottom, thanks to Dr. Woodrow Monte, Professor Emeritus of Nutrition, Arizona State University. First of all, aspartame, okay, it was introduced into our food supply in 1981. Is that right? Am I correct so far?
Yes.
Yeah, and that is the clock strike when in history when autism begins. That there's an exact correlation there. That's when autism begins as an epidemic.
Well, basically, I mean, the truth is, autism began probably in 1945 or 46. The first cases of it.
But I mean the big,
the
like,
epidemic.
The epidemic, the staggering rise.
The staggering rise, it's very difficult to pinpoint this exactly. And the best work was done last year by a woman, I mentioned her in the book, who actually got the Department of Education statistics on children that were identified as having autism and traced back these cases to the birth date. And when she did that, and that was groundbreaking, just tremendous work that she did. When she did that, the epidemic can be traced to 1984, about 9 months after aspartame was introduced into carbonated beverages.
Right. Okay. So they introduced it into carbonated beverages first. Is that right?
No, actually, no. It was they were only allowed. This is the exciting, interesting, and important thing that scientists have got to realize, and that is that was introduced into powdered beverages in '81 because it has a propensity to break down into methyl alcohol when it's in liquid,
right? Even
before it's consumed. And so they only allowed it in powdered, like Crystal Light, that kind of thing, powdered. And a lot of people don't drink those things. I got involved with this in '83 when they were asking to be allowed to put it in carbonated beverages. I was very much afraid of this because I knew that the consumption would go up many, many, many times when that happened. And so that's when I started fighting the fight to try to get it off the market. And so 9 months after it was introduced into carbonated beverages is when the epidemic of autism began.
It's absolutely staggering.
When they were asking to start putting it in carbonated beverages, this representative, a lawyer from the soft drinks beverage industry, asked me to take a look at aspartame for safety characteristics. And so I was sent by them to Washington, D.C. to view the docket file. And the docket file is, all the scientific evidence that G. Dees and company had put out over the years, all in one room. And basically, I was supposed to be able to see everything, look through anything I wanted to look through, and all that. And they wouldn't let me in right away, even though I had an appointment. And they kept me sitting in the waiting room for hours. And what they were doing in there, they were removing memos. And so they presented me with a paper saying that, that I could see the docket file, but certain memos had been removed. And so I said, well, I want to see those memos. You can't do this. I mean, I need to check. I'm looking into the safety of this for a major organization, and for my own curiosity as a university scientist, and I need to see those memos. And it turned out that the most important memos were the ones concerned about the product being shown to produce birth defects in rabbits, and I didn't get those until last year.
What is aspartame? What does it convert to, and how?
It's a simple little molecule, 2 amino acids, and methyl alcohol combined together. That combination happens to be sweet. We don't know why. They tried removing the methanol and substituting other alcohols. They tried changing the structure of it, but without the methanol, aspartame is not sweet. And so that's just the way it is.
So it's a simple.
We don't know how sweet receptors work.
It has not that I know what this means in context, but it has a simple chemical composition, and one of its components is methanol.
Yes, exactly.
And then how does formaldehyde come into it?
Well, this is the fascinating thing about methanol. And this is something that happens only in humans. It doesn't happen in experimental animals. Methanol, the history of methanol is fascinating. My whole book is about methanol. I mean, basically, I teach other scientists in the first 6 chapters the science of methanol. It's just so fascinating. It's the simplest alcohol. It's got 1 carbon. There's not much to it. But it is fascinating. When animals consume methanol, they have peroxisomes, special structures in their cells. Every cell, even humans have 100 or 200 of these little peroxisomes that are special little organelles, we call it. They're little parts of the cell that have a collection of enzymes. And so an animal, when methanol enters the animal's body, especially in the liver, the methanol enters this peroxisome. It gets converted in the peroxisome to its first metabolic breakdown product, which is formaldehyde. The first thing that methanol converts into is formaldehyde. But when it's in the peroxisome, that's okay, because the peroxisome has other enzymes that can take it on through to formic acid. Formic acid is a food additive. It's an extremely safe molecule. And then that formic acid is released into their cells, and they're okay. Unfortunately, the human has a mutation, and our peroxisomes they reject methanol. They can't do anything with it. And so we're stuck with not having a safe way to turn methanol into formaldehyde. We have to turn methanol into formaldehyde in this other enzyme that's in the body that's called alcohol dehydrogenase, that's not supposed to be metabolizing methanol, but can. Well, when it does, it converts it into formaldehyde right there, and then lets it go. Now, if it lets it go near the nucleus of the cell, that formaldehyde can float into the nucleus and start causing methylation. Formaldehyde is a methylating machine, and methylation is very bad. Methylation is what causes autism. Methylation is what causes cancers. Methylation is, a terrible thing to happen in the cell if it's not completely controlled. And the website is extremely helpful.
Yes.
For people. And the website has the same title,
Phenomenal.
WhileScienceSleeps.com. 2 chapters of the book are free and downloadable directly from the website. The 2 most important chapters, one on the autism, which is chapter 12, and the one on disease, which I'm hoping to stop, and it's multiple sclerosis, at chapter 9. And you can download those chapters. All of the references that I could get and scan are also on that site. So, when you see a reference in the book, you put that reference number into the site, and the reference will come up so you can read it yourself to see if what you think that I'm interpreting that information correctly. It's extremely important. So a lot of interesting and exciting information is on that site, free of charge, and I suggest people go there and start looking and reading, and that'll help them. If you really want to learn more,